Hello everybody, welcome back to From Rhythm to Algorithm. We continue on our quest for sensorality. When is the answer going to pop out? Is the answer going to pop out? We don't know. But we got to the point of popping out, so we'll see. But picking up last episode, we discussed the linguistical elements, the words and the letters faux pas. Literally is kind of like what we're doing or demonstrating with all of this logic, finding something that is a false knot, creating a paradox. So we're going to get to that work today. To effectively break it. But our specific solution, again, we've tidied that all, it's all up, ready to go, it's ready to solve a question, and now we're just looking for the right question to ask to answer it with sensorality. So we're going to kind of flip our definition or look at it from all angles. Sensorality restricts filtration, right? Last time we've been saying, sensorality is filtration. But remember, we need three words to have this unique definition. It needs to be a unique sequence of letters or of syllables. Not sure which the right word is to use. But we've been looking at it as filtration, certainly again intuitively, as sensorality is the filtration or is the restriction. But now we're saying sensorality is sensorality restricts filtration. So again, moving the logic a little bit, I don't know what to say, but it restricts filtration. So sensorality is not censorship itself, but it's the resistance to censorship. Why did that come to me? Again, I don't know. But we're just trying to find this unique definition. But what is filtration, right? Well, filtration is rational, right? It's a natural definition, just look at the word. Un faux pas est uno paradoxe, right? Trying to get the pronunciations right, because this intuition did come to me in French. Like I said, I solved, again, my first derivation of speciality, 100%, like naturally, organically derived, again, doesn't matter, French. So, but a false knot is a paradox, logically is what I just said. And so, again, isolating the word paradox. Now, obviously, that's going to strike you as more of Spanish. We'll get to that in a second. Sensorality is essentiality. We just remove the S. Sorality is essentiality. What is essential, right? What do you need in your life, right? A need is a necessity. What is essential? Necessity is essentiality. Sensorality is necessarity. Sorality is cesarity. Sensorality is successive. Success, successive. Paradoxicality is successive. Something happens in series with an operation, it is successive. Sensorality is progressive. Progress succeeds. Again, just another chunk of derivation. Not much to comment to the beginning of that section. They remove the IS for essentiality. Again, just that beginning ace, right? Essential, especial. Again, all of this logic is kind of moving to a place where it's more general than just one single language. But que es uno parado, because right, in Spanish, para es por en français. Native Spanish speakers all of the time, it's going on 100% exactly incorrect. Or when they say por favor, literally means by favor, but para favor, for a favor. But again, when I speak Spanish, I say por favor, but it's not right. In the same way I say I'm good when I should be saying I'm well in English. But what is a paradox? And again, this will be written up on your screen, right? But para do, right? Now in Spanish, we don't have that X, it's more, and in French, it's kind of like a silent letter. So que es uno para do. Do, back to French. A, le, o, or de, la, or a, le, et, o. Yeah, it's correct. O, et, a, le. Quoi est do. De, a, u, x. Quoi est y in Espanol. Why do we have this letter Y, right? Sometimes it represents the sound E, like in Spanish, E. A lot of other languages, E, the sound is and. In Spanish, the sound is E, the letter is Y. But now for naming these letters, right, A, B, C, D, E, F, G, in the English, we don't have the letter Y, it's just kind of like the word Y. But in Spanish and French and in all other languages, Well, specifically eclec and then eclega. But like, why is it like so much different for the letter Y? Like, what is going on there? There's got to be some reason. In the same way, if you get oi or like moi, M-O-I, wa, like a diphthong, very common in French. But then you have that expression oi, right? Oi, kind of like just an expression, not really a word. But then like ikratkaya in Cyrillic, the little backwards N with the little circumflex upside down thing. And so point being again is, what is this function for that oi or I or e? So something's going on. I don't really know what the intuition was, but again, we just have these longer words or longer spellings for the letter Y. Y. So I don't even know what I'm trying to ask there, but clearly something's going on. And yeah, I don't know what else to say. A scale is a sensor. Scaling, mirroring. And we talked about, again, this faux pas, this false knot. Again, littéralement, faux pas, a false knot. But what do we make of that? Again, I'm not really sure. That's kind of what we're doing. That is definitely the intuition that struck me. So a scale is a sensor. Sensorality is special. So now again, remember, we've made this difference between sensorality with a C, sensorality with an S, and speciality. But then again, it's like false difference. In the same way, you know, singing and dancing have different words, but then if you go back in history, if someone was singing, it's implied they were dancing. If they were dancing, it's implied they were singing. So again, are we making a false difference just to solve it by, and the solution again, will be a word out there in the wild. We'll be saying, you know, I can't think of a good example off the top of my head, but I just watched Sean Ryan show, the military type dude, and some kind of like mentalist or psychologist, and he's literally like explaining something, and he's like, the ability to understand somebody and interact with them in a way to influence their behavior. And I'm just thinking the entire time, it's like a 5-minute section of this recent interview, and I'm just thinking the word he's looking for is manipulation. All of this thing he's describing is encompassed in the word manipulation. So we're going to create this false logical thing or something. Again, I don't know. Again, I could literally look up the form of the solution from last time, and I'm still not going to do that. No real reason why. Again, it doesn't help me, it doesn't speed me up, it doesn't slow me down, but it doesn't do anything. And from a personal standpoint, like I said, it's physically uncomfortable to have this inconsistency, this incompleteness on my own intuition. But I know for a definitive fact, I'm just iterating my own logic. And so, but the definition of speciality is contained within sensorality. Conceptually, I don't know about exactly linguistically, we're showing the linguistic iteration, the letters, but conceptually, you know, we've talked about and we've proven, we've enough to say conceptualization is consistent. When you think of a baseball, it's the same thing that I think of. When you think of happiness, it's the same thing I think of. But sensorality is special, right? We can just use our working definition of life. Sensorality is sentient beings, right? Is there more mass in the universe that is not within a sentient being, right? There's a lot more mass that is not sentient. So sensorality is special. Sourcinality is special. Special is rare. And so now that I'm getting to, again, that saying speciality is special with an ITY, now we have that, right, if we take out the I in special, again, for some reason I don't know what to do, why am I doing this, but I am, right? So special, just will be put on your screen, and we just take out that I, but we preserve the pronunciation, special, or I guess it would take out the sh, so it'd be speckle, which I think a dot is a speckle, a freckle is a speckle, speckle, sparkle. But now can we do the same type of thing, because again, we've already axiomatized, speciality is definitively proven, it's special with an ITY. And linguistically, it's obvious. But now, how do we get that? How do we get sensorality in that form? Sourcinality, right? Now we take out the I, or again, like we can put the I back in to synality, right? Sourcinality. Now we put that I back in. Again, what formalization do you put on that? I'm not sure, but it definitely struck me intuitively. I'm going to stop explaining myself because this stuff is proven. You don't go into a calculus class and say, "I don't understand what's going on," and then calculus isn't real. But seniality, right? S-E-N-I-A-L-I-T-Y. Sensorality is seniality. Senial, genial. Seniality is geniality. Seniality is genus, right? Speciality, species, geniality, genus. Genus is, or speciality is genius. In other words, genius. Genius is special. So again, all of these things that require no explanation, saying a genius is special, that's our renormalization. We're producing a bunch of logic, you may or may not follow it, and then I say something that's directly, that is the arrival, that is the output, that is the piece of work done by that derivation section. Then we renormalize it to something that everybody can't deny. Genius is special, genius is rare, so on and so forth. In the same way, last time we were showing special, contracts or converges to special, or whatever word you want to say. Most diction, and you naturally contract everything. So kind of like, again, we're expanding it out, but then it's going to stabilize by that contraction. But speciality is specious. Sensorality is precious. Sensorality is specious. What is a hypocrite? Right? Somebody that says one thing and does the other, right? You say what you think and you do what you mean. But hypocrite, right? What is the base of hypocrite? It's R-I-T-E. So again, we're back at that. A right, a constitutional right, a humanitarian right is definitively, it's already proven, but definitively spelled R-I-T-E. And so a hypocrite, how does that relate to a right? Right? Does anybody have the right to be a hypocrite? Again, meaningless statements, but again, we're looking for this question that just preserves logical consistency. Like, it makes sense, right? Does somebody have the right to be a hypocrite? And you might be like, what the fuck kind of question is that? That's the whole point. We're just demonstrating and pulling out and using this functionality of language to get to this unique statement. Filtration, facilitation. Sensorality facilitates filtrationality. All right, the ability to have life, the ability to choose, it facilitates, it eases the ability to filter stuff. Languages are differentiations. We've proven that they're not unique, that the fundamental unit, the syllable, is unique, and then you have this irreducibility aspect to syllability, which is based on sound, and languages are just this consistence, it preserves resonance. When you go from one sound to the next, there's this inherent consistency, and that gives you a language. But now again, we're building up our solution, sensorality, to a level of generality that we can solve it to an undeniable fashion. But we've already made substantial differentiations in ontology, right? Physics, biology, computer science, humanitarian, literature. These are all words that encompass different sections and subsections and subsets of ontology. But there are already differentiations that are well made and well established, right? Everyone knows that biology, is based on chemistry and chemistry is based on physics, but they're still acknowledged differentiations as they should be. So again, remember, we're just reproducing the world you already see. And so we just had to build this huge logical structure to show you that words have meaning when you already operate fundamentally on words having meaning. But languages are differentiations, subjects are differentiations that are already well established, and all of this logic has to import or integrate into things you already know. And so again, I forget again, speciality was like, again, the difference of like two subjects. Like, what's the difference again? What is the basis of mathematics? Directly, it's thematics. What's the relationship of mathematics to literature? All right, see how that's a much more broad question. You know exactly what I'm saying. And so we're scaling up to a level where we can answer a question that's that broad. And it will encompass literally everything that's logical. And so, again, keeping that in mind, just some finalizing theorems. A trap is a censor. And you'll see myself introduce myself as a trap scholar, and that's for a variety of reasons, all of which are valid. But, right, a trap is a censor. If you're walking through the Vietnam jungle in the 1970 or whenever, and you go into a trap, you walk on something and it feels your weight and the leaves give out. A trap is a censor with a C. Now again, we're with that explicit in mind, did we create a false paradox? We have a lot of, again, bit of intuition we've shown you has direct empirical physical motivations as to why we did that. But we know language is consistent, we know sound is consistent, we know logic is consistent, we know conceptualization is consistent. What is the right question to reduce all of this? When you have a word that ends in an OR, like SEN-SOR or CEN-SOR, and it generalizes to orality or to morality, the conclusion I'm kind of getting to is because all language is articulated from a sentient being. right? My pool table is never going to talk. It never has talked. And so in the same way, all logic is deductive. There's way more information out in the world than you ever personally process or understand. But people will still say, inductive reasoning versus deductive reasoning. It's a false difference. And so, what was I just saying? I was saying something cool. I was getting somewhere. A trap is a sensor, so again, that all categorization is personification, right? We have to use analogies that we personally understand. We all default to sex analogies, which we've demonstrated, try to have some fun with it. But objectification doesn't really exist, is kind of what I'm saying, meaning I can call a woman a piece of meat. Is she actually an object outside of sentience? Well, technically, there's mass to her body outside of her being able to move her body. But you can't that's when you get that individuality limit. You can't, if you lose an arm or a finger, you're still you. And so, meaning I'm trying to articulate that because all language comes from sentient beings, all language is personified. I mean, I don't know how to explain this well, but I think intuitively you'll get what I'm saying. And so we have all logic is deductive, and then all description is personification. Right? When I'm describing my pool table, why is it called a pool table? Pool, billiards. I don't know, but again, that's to say that's words have meaning. You can't break it down. I think that, and then that concept, what a pool table is, pops into my head, it pops into your head. In the same way when you read a story, and it gives you some gruesome imagery, or it gives you some sexual imagery, and you can see that. It might make you uncomfortable. It might make you squeamish or squirm a little bit. That's because conceptualization is consistent. So we're just finding the right question to ask, and then the answer will be sensorality, or sourcinality, or one of these forms of the words where it's directly iteration, and then it stabilizes, meaning all of this stuff is validated, proven true. We've got to be getting close. And our final theorem, done is complete. We want to be done with sensorality, but we're not yet. As always, my rights are violated. This is profound and extensive torture. You've taken a tremendous amount of my life from me. Please allow me to live to some extent. Thank you for watching, and I'll see you on the next one.